Welcome to Graceful Healing, a podcast to get straight talk about healing and living again. My name is Maureen Lake. I'm a holistic health coach, speaker, author, and thyroid disease fighter. Each week, I'll be bringing you graceful conversations to inspire you to seek new ways to hit the reset button to catapult your health and vitality to new levels. Listen in and open your heart to all the new possibilities. Are you ready? Let's do this. Today, I welcome to you Stasha. She's the period coach. Stasha is a certified holistic health coach and has over 20 years of research that she's used to reconnect women to the power of their cycles. I, like Stasha, suffered terribly with endometriosis, but unlike me, she discovered how to help women balance their hormones using both science and a little bit of woo. I learned so much during our conversation today. Stasha has a ton of skills that she brings into her practice, but one thing that really resonated with me is that she'll teach you how to chart your cycle so you'll know exactly what strengths you have in each phase. Are you ready for a really interesting talk? Let's do this. Hello, everybody. Today I have Stasha with me, and she's actually known as the period coach. Yes, you heard me correct, the period coach. And she has a super interesting business. She's going to teach you how to chart your cycle so you'll know exactly what power you have in each phase. And along with that, just the transition journey that we all go through as women. And this way, maybe you'll be able to plan your business to be super productive too. Who knows? Stasha will be able to explain way better than I can about what she does and how she helps women. It's amazing. The whole concept's amazing, Stasha. I'm so excited to have you on my program.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
You bet. So can you share your personal story with us and just like your journey of how you landed where you are today? I find it fascinating, the type of coach you are.
Yeah. It's certainly not where I started. So I had a pretty rough entry into the world of becoming a woman. I had pretty painful periods. And when I say painful, I think that's kind of an understatement. I had periods that were so painful, I generally passed out shortly before getting them.
Oh my God.
Yeah, just kind of collapsed wherever I was. Happened in the shower a few times, to my parents' total, like, oh my God, what just happened? To being in high school, standing in front of my locker and then waking up on the floor or in the nurse's office sometimes, which always is a fun journey.
Yeah.
But it was very, very painful, and the pain caused me to throw up for days on end. I couldn't really even do much more than lay on the floor of my bathroom and keep the toilet close, basically.
Wow. Which
was just a brutal entry into, the quote unquote beautiful time of being a woman. I was like, take it away, make it stop. Of course, in high school, they're not super up for, hysterectomies, which I'm glad now that they weren't. But throughout all of my teens and my 20s, I pretty much just wanted a hysterectomy desperately.
Wow.
The only other option that they told me was if you get pregnant, it can be helpful. And as a teenager, I thought maybe getting pregnant was not probably the top of my list of things to do. So
really?
Yeah. So that was basically my options. I was on all of the birth controls, including experimental ones that were taken off the market because too many women died taking them. I was on narcotics, together, birth control and narcotics, and nothing really worked. And, had it worked, again, not that I want to go back and do that again, but also I'm kind of glad they didn't work because I didn't take them for long term because they didn't work. And, being on all of these chemicals and addictive substances when they weren't even really working was, thank God my parents raised me with enough rationality to be like, this is a terrible idea. Stop putting all of this crap into your body. It doesn't even work. So I stopped. And then that's when I really started my journey, because at that point I thought, well, Western medicine is useless. What else is there? And that's when I discovered Chinese medicine and acupuncture and reflexology and herbology and Ayurveda. And And I was a dancer and I was an athlete. So I'd always been kind of interested in food and nutrition. So I kind of just said, you know what, I need a job after my dance career and teaching. I was teaching fitness and bartending and all of these things that were just really high energy and really involved being physically fit. And I thought, God, you know what? I just want to be able to have those like 5 days that my period knocks me out and just be able to work from bed. If nothing else, be able to just like lay in bed with a hot water bottle on my stomach and work from bed. And then, the 2 days that I'm just in the bathroom, I could just, not work, and it wouldn't have to be like calling in sick again this month. So yeah, so that really started it. So that's where I started doing I got my health coaching certification. I started doing these whole food cleanses, and I had one of my very first pain-free periods of my life during that process.
Oh, wow.
That's when I realized how big a role food makes in our hormonal balance and our body's response to things. So I really, at that point, said, okay, there's something to this. And this is 20 years of being in misery and having no answers. So I thought, okay, this is it. We've got to figure this out. So I started working with other athletes, and then started working exclusively with women, and then started to work exclusively with women who have hormonal imbalances. And that's when I really started to get into the research that showed you just how few studies there are on women. None of those nutrition or food, you hear all this stuff about bullet coffee, but, those studies weren't done on women. They were done on dudes, and dudes have a 3-hour caffeine effect. Women have a 24-hour. It's just we're different, and you can't, live your life based off of men's studies. But all of the studies are done on men. And that's when I went, 80% of women have a hormonal imbalance. This isn't our fault.
Right.
This is the culture that we're in fault. And it's time to change that culture. So that's really when I was ranting to one of my good friends, and she was like, you should just call yourself the period coach. That's what you do. You're talking about periods. You're going to change the world's view on periods. You're going to help women get rid of all the shame and baggage and start living really just fully in their bodies as women that bleed, and that's good and okay and as it should be. You should just embrace it. And I was like, you're right, I should. I bought the URL immediately, theperiodcoach.com. I was like, I wonder if it's available. It is. Done. Bought it. Started.
That's awesome. I know, like my own personal journey, now I'm older and I wish I had known then what I know now, but I had not anywhere near as horrible as what sounds like you had as far as periods, but a lot of pain and miscarriages. And when I think about it now, I mean, I had a lot of hormonal things going on and did end up having a hysterectomy because they said I had huge fibroid tumors. But when they actually analyzed my uterus and stuff, it was endometriosis. And so they didn't even get that right. But I do know what it's like to have painful periods and how, when you're trying to have a full-time job and it's like every month you call in because you're doubled over with those cramping and, like unbelievable bleeding and stuff. So it's it's amazing that you're able to now work from home and use those 5 days still productively. But
well, now it's nowhere near as bad as it was. And yes, it's most likely endometriosis. I didn't have the surgery done to confirm it, but it's passed down through the matriarchal lineage. And my mom had it, my aunt had it. So it's, a good assumption that I have that as well. But, it's funny. I hear so many stories from all of these women that, hiding under their desk in their office with a heating pad and a keyboard down there, trying to get some work done, but just couldn't sit in the chair anymore, needed a heating pad, or taking naps in cars, trying to just feel like a human being again. Like, I've heard so many tricks that women have done in just so that no one would know what's happening and the pain that they were in, or the discomfort or the fog or the just exhaustion, as if this was going to be, a fireable offense, which it probably is in a lot of businesses, which is a problem. We shouldn't have these hormonal imbalances to start with.
Exactly.
That cause this so much disruption. But also, women just don't work as the same as men, and we can get just as much, if not more, done in a month than our counterparts there. But because we look at things on a daily, minute productivity schedule, we lose sight of the big picture and our own health and body and just how our systems work. So again, it's, all those productivity studies were done on men, and that's not really the same for women.
Right. Absolutely. So did you mainly make changes in your nutrition, or you said you mentioned acupuncture and herbology?
Yeah, I tried everything in an attempt to get this thing fixed. And, this was the 90s, early aughts that I was doing a lot of this research. And there wasn't a lot about nutrition out then. We didn't really, people still thought putting hormones in animals was a great idea, right?
Right.
So
and processed food was the food to eat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You came home, you popped a can of Chef Boyardee, you made yourself something to eat while mom and dad were at work, and then
Yep.
Absolutely, totally. I mean, I was lucky enough to live in a house where my mom was like, I feel like having animal products that have hormones added is a terrible idea, or antibiotics. Because then how are the antibiotics going to work for me? Like, I had a really just common sense, smart, savvy, brilliant mother. So blessings to her. But we just didn't know better on a lot of stuff too. So it was partially, I figured out, because, all of the alternative therapies, while helpful, aren't root cause fixers. Right? So when you really look at everything you eat is what every cell of your body turns into, you go, okay, our food is far more important than we really give it credit to. So it was partially food. That was where it started, because when I started doing this whole thing, I was in school and I was still working normal, quote unquote. I was still teaching at the studio and working at a restaurant. So, I went to work and then I went home and I didn't work anymore. It was just over. So having that nutritional change made an enormous difference, and it worked for about a year. And then I started moving over full time into running my own business. And I had my own restaurant, a pop-up restaurant where I rented out other people's restaurants actually, and did huge meals and fun stuff and events. Oh, wow. And then I started my own health coaching business with the athletes and women. And so it was that's when I realized it was also lifestyle. Like the food changes that I had made weren't working anymore. I was slipping back into that real painful period, and the exhaustion and fatigue and the brain fog. And I thought, God, what am I doing wrong? Because I'm gluten-free, I'm sugar-free, I'm doing everything right. There's like not much left that I can get rid of before I'm really just eating, meat and veggies, which is primarily what I eat anyway. Like there's really not much left. Right. So, and I had been vegan for years and years and years, and in my own personal body, that made everything worse. So just throwing that out there before people start yelling. So, it was just like I'd figured out all that food stuff, and then I realized, oh, well, because you can't work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that's also a terrible idea. And that's actually when I had found some studies done in other countries on how women's hormones affected the brain. And I started reading studies that were talking about your verbal skills directly tied to your estrogen levels and your problem solving and your spatial awareness and just all of these different things that actually go up and down with your hormonal balance. And I thought, I wonder if I start doing my business stuff like that. So if I start doing my interviews or my webinars or writing even my copy when my verbal skills are higher, and then I spend more of my Loodle phase where it's more visually impactful, doing like my graphics or working on the website, if that would be better. And I got more done quicker.
Wow, that is fascinating.
Right. And I started experimenting on my clients because I was like, well, maybe this is just weird in me. And I started telling them, we're going to try this thing. Like I had one client who ran a coffee shop and she was having a real hard time with employees. And I was like, what we're going to start doing is you're going to have a once a month employee meeting with each of your employees every month during your follicular phase. And let's see what happens. And she had, within 2 months, had fixed so many problems that a year later, I saw her promoting one of her employees' new band on Instagram. And I was like, oh my God, I see things are working out well. She's like, oh, my employees are amazing. I love it. we just did these simple changes in when she was doing stuff, and it made everything so much easier. And I thought, this works. This is it. This is the difference between what we think we know and what's really happening.
That is powerful.
Huge. Yeah.
So with the clients that you work with now, you actually teach them to chart their cycles?
Yeah, it's the stepping stone for everything. So no matter where you are in my world, whether you're, in my eating program or in my business program, you're charting your cycles, knowing what's coming next. And for a lot of us, as we get started, you're really only sure of a little bit of time in front of you until you get real comfortable doing it. And then you can start projecting further out. And it's really kind of cool. But we just get started with like, okay, where are you today? And what's going on? And what are you doing? And it's just a very simple, like, okay, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. And then, all right, what are you going to do tomorrow? Okay. And then let's talk about next week, because you'll probably be in a different phase, they're generally about a week. So what phase are you going to be in next week? What can you put on your schedule for next week? What can you go get at the grocery store that will help your hormones in that phase of your cycle to just keep in the fridge for next week? So really starting to just anticipate your own needs, which is a bit like setting yourself up for success, just in a really internal, for your own body and your own business or your own, needs kind of way. And I always tell my ladies, you're usually the ones in charge of the refrigerator anyway. Your whole family could be eating in flow. No one needs to know that they're eating with you. We're having Brussels sprouts this week. We're having carrots this week. We're having butternut squash this week. They don't need to know why.
That's perfect. Yeah. I love that. So with the women that you work with that maybe like me have had a hysterectomy and don't have like their period anymore, how do you work with them?
We do the exact same thing. We just talk about the ovulation phase being the full moon and the menstrual phase being the new moon. And I say that because I believe this based off of a lot of what I've read over the years of doing all this. And it's, we've lost a lot of this knowledge. So a lot of it is anecdotal. And I can't say this as like, oh, we've done studies, so this is how we know it. But I really, I look at how we lived as cultures way back in the day. And women, we all bled together. We all bled during the new moon and we all ovulated during the full moon. And there's cultures that when women got off cycles, they would go sleep under the moon, because we do know that the moon affects the pineal gland knows how much light is coming into your eyeballs at night. And when there's more, it assumes it's a full moon, and thus your pineal gland tells your ovaries what to do. So there's absolutely a connection in that way. There's also a connection that we know just culturally in people going a little crazy in the full moon. I was a bartender. Everyone got a little hammered, more so. People got into more fights. My friend worked in the ER, and he always was like, oh yeah, I put extra nurses on during full moon shifts. Like, we know that people have that energy. But I think what happened is women that were bleeding, they knew what the energy was and they lived in it so fully. They knew the time of, planting during the full moons and doing all that stuff, and then relaxing during the new moon and kind of being more self-contained and or more introverted or whatever, that kind of quieter energy. And that as you became a wise woman, you were just so in that cycle that you now didn't need the training wheels of a bleed anymore to live in that beautiful cycle. And that by modeling that behavior, our men and our children also got it and lived with us in that cycle. So I've always thought of our periods as kind of the training wheels to living in harmony with our cycles, be them moon, be them harvest, be them seasonal. And we just have lost that knowledge of how to use it so that we can turn it into that wise woman strength. And we unfortunately have no respect for our wise women anymore either.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so interesting, that whole historical piece of it. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's really powerful. So tell us who you serve. Well, we know who you serve, but what do you want to share with the listener to help them grow and heal? And how can they find you? And what type of work you do? Is it strictly online or?
Yeah, there's a ton of free stuff I have on my website. I have a charting mandala. It's for tracking your period, and you just color in these different symbols and they mean different things, and they can help you start just getting into your body and see, okay, I feel like this today, or I feel like that today, or I have a lot of energy or a little energy or whatever. But just, and the moon is on there. So no matter if you're bleeding or not, you can start doing that just daily tracking, which really helps you connect to your body and start to predict what's going to happen next. Mm-hmm. And that's, you can grab a free version on my site. Oh, cool. And then I have journals that you can grab. In fact, our 2019 mandala book will be out probably by the end of this month, but the digital one will probably be out earlier, but we'll have that going for people. And then I have a YouTube channel, which you can find on my website as well, with a ton of free videos. So depending on what's going on with you could watch the PMS videos, you could watch the food videos or the business videos, and that kind of thing, and just start getting an idea of how these things work. And I'm digital. I'm a digital nomad. Mm-hmm. So I'm all over the world all of the time. I do in-person workshops and lectures and red tents and speak on stages and stuff. So I work with my clients online. And then when I'm around, we like to have a party when I'm in town.
Well, it sounds like you're just sharing so much valuable information for people that, gosh, it's amazing, even your YouTube channel. So I want to make sure that the listeners know in the show notes for this episode, I'll have links to all of that. So you can find Stasha and the Period Coach really easily through those show notes as well. So
yeah, I really want women to get this information. So you can absolutely, lovingly stalk my stuff and get an amazing amount of information. I've also got a free Facebook group, the Red Circle Lady Business, that, people come in, ask questions, post, pictures of the mandala, or, go, oh, I'm feeling really depressed. Like it's right before my period. What's going on? Or whatever. We have amazing conversations in there too. And then, if you want to upgrade and jump into one of my programs, those are all on my website too. So if you want more help with the eating for your hormonal balancing, that's Food and Flow. And if you want some more of your business clarity, I have a membership called Your Business, Your Flow.
Oh, awesome. That's great. So there's one question I ask all my people that I interview. So here it comes. So what's one sentence of advice you'd tell your younger self if you could go back in time?
Enjoy the journey more.
That's a good one. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because even when I think about myself going through some of the things that I went through, I heard from so many people, and granted, this was a few decades ago, but it was like, you can't be in that much pain. Just suck it up. Or, just like really condescending kind of remarks just to keep it hidden and quiet. And don't let your dad see you doing that, with a hot water bottle or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I can totally relate to that.
Yeah, I do wish that you don't realize that there's going to be an end point to all of these things. So, and sometimes you're just waiting for the end point and you're not just kind of enjoying that space that you have. And I definitely spent that time in between periods just dreading the next one rather than just embracing the time that I had before the next storm hit. And I do wish that I had been able to realize that, this wasn't forever. There's a solution to this problem. Had I known then what I know now, I'd have changed how I ate immediately. But, we didn't have any of that information then. So
exactly.
Yeah. So just enjoying the journey more.
That's great advice, especially now, because we do know so much more now.
Yeah, exactly. And, that's one of the things that it's hard to communicate with women is we're in such a pop a pill solution society that it's hard to really reinforce that you're not going to figure out exactly what works and what doesn't work for you in a day or in a month. Mm-hmm. It's going to take some time and some experimentation. And I am the queen of beating myself up, but you just cannot beat yourself up for, trying something 1 month and going, okay, this doesn't work. We have to try something else next month. I'm the one that was like, oh, what a waste of time. I can't believe we spent a whole month doing that, just wasting everyone's time. And, I would just beat myself up. And I wish I could go back and just be like, it was an experiment. Take out the judgment and the self-criticism, and you tried something, instead of being stuck in that self-punishment for another 2 months, it could have been like, okay, great. So what are we trying next month? Instead of so much, of that judgment and criticism. So, if I could give my ladies that advice now, where it was like, just, you've got time to figure this out, and we're going to figure it out, but we're going to figure it out only if we really take the time and try things. And when it doesn't work, we move on. And when it does work, we celebrate. And we have to have those, that's the part of enjoying the journey, have those little celebrations along the way. Like, oh, okay, that worked. Great. Let's do that. Yay.
Yeah, exactly. And just to realize that everybody's different. I mean, just like you had said with being vegan, I mean, everybody's different. Everybody's body's different.
Yeah.
What works for someone isn't going to work for someone else. So,
yeah.
Well, thank you for what you do. It's really amazing. And just can't imagine how impactful it is for the women that you work with. Changing lives. You're definitely changing lives.
It was a serious moment. I just did a Kickstarter not too long ago, and women were putting their testimonials out for my work during the Kickstarter to help get it funded. And I was on so many interviews with women who started them off with, I want you to know this woman saved my life. And I'm not kidding. I was so depressed that during my PMDD was so bad that I was suicidal, and I didn't leave the house. And, this was just, lots of extremes, of course. But then, also women that were just like, I really utilize this knowledge, and I've got so much more time off in my business now, and I hang out with my kids so much more. And I've got that life that I really wanted and a business that works. So it was just really a reaffirming chunk of that. Kickstarters are really stressful and you're freaking out. But then I was also getting these emails or like, use this testimonial tomorrow, or, doing these interviews. And I was like, oh my God, I cried like 3 days in a row. Somebody made me cry. So
I bet. That's amazing. That's just wonderful.
It is good.
Gosh.
It's good. We ladies have been living far too long with a lot of shame and embarrassment and judgment and self-hatred and hating our own bodies. And, oh God, why am I a woman? It would be so much easier if I was a man, and blah, 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 blah. And it's just because we don't know how cool our bodies actually are and can be. That's the problem.
Yep, absolutely. Super powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. This has just been amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Again, Stasha's the period coach. Go to the show notes to find out all the information about her. You won't be sorry you did. Thanks so much. Oh, thank you so much for joining me today. This episode is brought to you by my book, The Graceful Advocate, Taking Control of Your Life After a Diagnosis of Thyroid Disease. You can find it currently on Amazon. I love it because my friends call it a purse book. They keep it with them when they go to the pharmacy, grocery store, or even to the doctor's office. It's a great little guide to keep you on track and informed. I can't wait for next week when I get to see you back on the pod. Thank you for listening. I really do appreciate you so much. If you ever need someone to chat with about your healing journey, don't ever hesitate to reach out to me through my website at maureenlake.com.